The arena buzzed with excitement. Thousands of alien spectators filled the stands, their voices merging into a roar that shook the metal walls. The air shimmered with energy, charged by anticipation and pride. In the center of the arena, Leora, the champion of the cluster games, raised her arms in victory. Her armor gleamed under the bright lights, reflecting her pride and strength. She had fought with skill and precision, defeating her opponent in a display of agility and power. Now, all eyes were on her, celebrating the unmatched might of the alien warrior. Leora's chest swelled as the crowd cheered. Every planet had sent their best fighters, and yet here she stood, undefeated. She had trained for years for this moment, learning every technique, every trick, and every strategy to ensure her dominance. Her mind was sharp, her body even sharper. To Leora, victory was not just a reward. It was proof of her determination, her strength, and her unyielding will. But among the crowd, a quiet figure watched. He did not cheer, nor did he display excitement like the others. His presence was almost unnoticed, yet it carried weight. Ethan, a human from a distant colony, stood at the edge of the stands, his eyes fixed on the arena floor. Unlike the aliens, humans were smaller, less physically imposing, and often underestimated. Yet Ethan carried a reputation that even the strongest warriors could not ignore. Stories of his intelligence, strategy, and courage had traveled across the galaxy, reaching the ears of those in the arena. Ethan's dark eyes scanned the scene calmly. He had no flashy armor, no advanced weapons, only a simple staff in his hand. The staff seemed ordinary, but it was part of his skill, a tool to channel his strategy and balance in combat. He did not seek attention. He did not crave glory. But he knew that the galaxy underestimated humans, and he intended to change that perception. The arena announcer's voice boomed across the space, echoing like thunder. Champion of the cluster games, Leora of the Varkari, supreme victor of the arena. The crowd erupted in cheers again, throwing flowers and colored ribbons toward the center. Leora basked in the acclaim, raising her arms higher. She looked around proudly, feeling the eyes of millions upon her. To her, this moment was the pinnacle of her life's work. She had defeated warriors from a dozen worlds, each stronger and more cunning than the last. And now, she was untouchable. But then, movement caught the corner of her eye. At first, she ignored it. She assumed it was just another spectator trying to get closer or a minor disturbance. Yet, step by step, the figure came into focus. Ethan. He walked steadily, slowly, yet with purpose. No one had expected a human to approach. Humans were rare in these arenas, and even rarer were those daring enough to challenge champions. The crowd noticed the movement, a ripple of curiosity passing through them. Whispers spread. Some laughed, thinking it a joke. Others frowned, uncertain of what they were witnessing. Leora lowered her arms slightly, her eyes narrowing. She studied the human carefully. He carried nothing but a staff, and yet there was a quiet confidence in his walk. He did not tremble, he did not hesitate. Every step was measured, every movement conveyed calm focus. The announcer paused, his voice faltering for the first time. It appears we have an unexpected challenger entering the arena. A human, Ethan, of the Orion colonies. He seeks to challenge the champion. The arena fell quiet. The roar of the crowd diminished to a tense silence. Aliens of all shapes and sizes stared at the human, unsure of what to expect. Some snorted in disbelief, while others leaned forward, curious. Leora's smirk appeared slowly. She had seen many challengers, some brave, some foolish, but none like this. A human daring to challenge her? It was almost amusing. She raised an eyebrow and crossed her arms. Ethan reached the center of the arena and stopped, his staff held loosely in his hand. He looked directly at Leora, not with fear but with steady determination. His voice was calm but carried an authority that surprised many. I challenge you, Leora, not for glory, but to show that humans are not to be underestimated. The crowd gasped. Challenge? To Leora? To the champion? Aliens whispered among themselves. Some scoffed at the audacity. How could a human, so small and unarmed compared to the mightiest warriors, think he could even compete? Yet, there was something, in his eyes, a fire that no alien could ignore. Leora's smirk widened. Finally, a challenge worthy of her attention. "Very well," she said, her voice ringing across the arena. "Step forward, human. Show me your skill." As the duel began, the atmosphere shifted. Leora moved first, her body a blur of strength and precision. Each strike was calculated, a combination of speed and power that had defeated countless opponents. The human dodged with surprising agility, stepping aside, twisting, and using his staff to parry. His movements were not chaotic but deliberate, every action designed to counter her overwhelming strength. The crowd gasped again. This human was not running. He was not hiding. He was matching her, not in power, but in wit and skill. "Aliens," whispered in disbelief. Some shook their heads, unable to comprehend how a human could move so cleverly against a champion. Leora's attacks grew faster, more complex. She expected him to falter, to make a mistake. But Ethan anticipated her strikes. He seemed to read her, predicting her next move with uncanny accuracy. Step by step, strike by strike, the duel became a dance of skill and strategy. For a brief moment, Leora felt a thrill she had not felt before. This was no ordinary opponent. He was not relying on brute force nor on fear. He relied on mind, observation, and adaptability, qualities that aliens often overlooked. The human had turned the arena itself into a tool, using its walls, floor, and angles to his advantage. The crowd watched in stunned silence. The roar that had greeted Leora's victory moments ago was replaced by awe. Humans were underestimated, often dismissed as weaker, smaller, and slower. Yet here was Ethan, proving that strength alone did not determine victory. Intelligence, strategy, and courage could match and even surpass raw power. As the duel continued, Leora's confidence remained, but it shifted into respect. She realized that this human was not just another fighter. He was something different, something unique. Every move he made reflected thought, planning, and courage. She could see that underestimating him could be dangerous, not just to her pride, but to her very life in the arena. The first round ended with neither gaining the upper hand. Both stood breathing, their eyes locked. Leora's smirk had softened into a serious expression. She nodded slightly, acknowledging the human's skill. Ethan's calm demeanor never wavered. He knew this was only the beginning. From the stands, spectators whispered about the human. Aliens who had laughed at him now watched with a mixture of disbelief and respect. Children pointed at him, inspired by his courage. Veterans in the crowd, hardened by years of battles, leaned forward, intrigued by his unique style. Ethan knew he had made an impact. He did not seek to humiliate the champion, nor did he crave applause. He wanted to show that humans, often underestimated, could face the galaxy's strongest with intelligence, courage, and determination. That was enough for him. Leora adjusted her stance, preparing for the next round. She had underestimated him for a brief moment, but now she knew the duel would test her in ways she had never imagined. The arena's energy shifted, from excitement to tense anticipation. This was no ordinary match. It was a battle of mind and strength, strategy and instinct. As they circled each other, the crowd held its collective breath. Every strike, every block, every dodge was magnified in the minds of the spectators. The legend of the human challenger was beginning, and the galaxy would remember this moment long after the echoes of the arena faded. Ethan's eyes never left Leora's. He did not fear her, nor did he try to mimic her strength. He relied on his observation, his understanding, and his human ingenuity. He was ready for whatever she would throw at him next, and Leora, the champion, felt a thrill she had never experienced. For the first time in her life, she faced someone who could match her, not in strength, but in courage and skill. The arena was no longer just a stage for her victory. It had become a proving ground for humanity itself. The first round ended, but the battle was only beginning. The spectators, once deafened by her triumph, now waited in silence. They were witnessing something extraordinary. A human standing against the mightiest alien champion, unafraid, unyielding, and unmatched in ingenuity. And in that silence, a message spread across the galaxy without words. Underestimate a human at your own peril. The crowd's silence stretched as Leora and Ethan faced each other in the center of the arena. Every spectator, from the smallest child to the oldest warrior, leaned forward in anticipation. The tension was palpable. The air itself seemed heavier, filled with expectation. This was not an ordinary duel. This was a clash of worlds, a meeting of raw power and human ingenuity. Leora's eyes narrowed as she studied the human. He was small, yes, and unarmed compared to the champion's sleek, high-tech armor. But there was no fear in his gaze. Instead, he exuded calm and focus, qualities that she had come to respect only in the rarest of opponents. She flexed her fingers, feeling the weight of her strength, yet wondering if brute force alone would be enough. Ethan stood with his staff lightly gripped, feet planted firmly on the arena floor. He did not attack first, waiting for the alien warrior to make her move. His strategy was simple but effective: observe, adapt, and exploit. He understood that strength could be overwhelming, but intelligence and precision could balance the scales. Every movement, every step, every glance was calculated. Without warning, Leora lunged forward. Her first strike was fast, a sweeping blow aimed to end the duel quickly. The crowd gasped at the speed of her movement, their eyes struggling to follow her, but Ethan stepped lightly aside, letting her momentum carry past him. Using the tip of his staff, he guided her attack safely away, redirecting her energy without resisting it directly. The spectators whispered among themselves. The human was not strong, yet he was turning the fight into something more than a display of brute force. He was using his mind, and in that, he challenged the assumptions of every alien watching. Leora's next attacks came faster, sharper, and more unpredictable. She twisted, leaped, and struck in angles designed to overwhelm any opponent. Many warriors had fallen to her this way, but Ethan anticipated her patterns. He moved with precision, each dodge timed perfectly, each counter subtle yet effective. He did not attempt to strike her with force. Instead, he focused on balance and positioning, forcing her to overextend, to leave openings. The crowd murmured in disbelief. Never had they seen a human withstand such a display of raw strength. Children whispered in awe. Older warriors leaned closer, and even the announcers seemed to hold their breath. Leora paused for a brief second, surprised that someone so small could move with such understanding of her attacks. "You are more clever than I expected," she said, her voice carrying across the arena. "But strength still matters. Don't forget that." Ethan's eyes did not waver. "Strength alone does not always win," he replied calmly. "Strategy, observation, and patience can match any power." Leora smiled faintly. This human had courage, but he also had something more. He had intelligence and intuition. That combination was rare even among the strongest aliens. She realized she would need to change her tactics if she hoped to win. She adjusted her stance, lowering her body, spreading her weight and preparing for a more aggressive approach. She moved with sudden speed, striking from unexpected directions, combining spins and jumps that could overwhelm even the best fighters. Ethan barely managed to keep pace, his staff weaving and deflecting, guiding him safely through her attacks. For every strike Leora launched, Ethan had an answer, not a counter meant to harm, but a movement designed to protect, evade, and anticipate. Slowly, he started using the arena itself to his advantage. He ducked behind walls, bounced lightly off platforms, and used the angles of the floor to shift his position. Every motion was designed to conserve energy while remaining untouchable. The crowd watched in awe. Aliens who had laughed at the human's small size now whispered to each other, their disbelief growing into curiosity and admiration. The pattern was clear. The human was not weaker. He was different, yes, but different in a way that made him dangerous. Leora's strikes grew more powerful, yet she noticed her own energy beginning to tire. Even champions had limits. She realized that the duel was no longer simply a test of strength. Ethan had turned it into a battle of endurance, and each attack she made carried risk. Each movement had to be calculated, for one misstep could give the human the advantage. Ethan, sensing the slight hesitation in Leora's movements, decided to act. He spun his staff with a fluid motion, extending it to guide her next attack off. Balance. With precise timing, he dodged past her guard, placing himself in a position to anticipate her next move. His body moved naturally, yet with deliberate control. The crowd's murmur grew louder, a mix of excitement and astonishment. Never before had they witnessed a human face the strongest alien warrior with such composure. Every strike that Leora threw, every feint she used, seemed to be met with perfect anticipation. Ethan's calm and measured approach contrasted sharply, with her aggressive style creating a tension that had every spectator on the edge of their seats. Leora took a deep breath, feeling a thrill she had never experienced. Most opponents crumbled under pressure or relied solely on force. This human, however, adapted, learned, and exploited openings with intelligence and precision. She had expected an easy victory, but now she realized the challenge was real. "Impressive," she said, breathing evenly. "You think like a general, not a soldier." Ethan's eyes never left hers. Humans survive by thinking ahead. We adapt to survive. Strength is only one part of the equation. The words carried weight, resonating, with both the spectators and Leora herself. She realized that underestimating a human could be dangerous. Not because he was strong in the traditional sense, but because he combined courage with ingenuity, a combination that few in the galaxy could match. Leora adjusted again, preparing a new technique she had never used in competition. It was a move designed to overwhelm even the most skilled fighter, a combination of rapid strikes and sudden shifts in position, aimed to confuse and overpower her opponent. Ethan sensed the change immediately. He moved his staff with quick precision, deflecting the first attack, twisting to avoid the second, and ducking under the third. The strikes were designed for power, but Ethan turned them into opportunities to conserve energy, shift position, and test her endurance. The audience could hardly believe what they were seeing. The champion, undefeated for years, was being matched move for move by a human. A small, unarmed human. Whispers of astonishment spread across the stands. "He can't win," one alien muttered. "And yet, he keeps up." Leora's eyes widened slightly. For the first time in her career, she felt a flicker of doubt. She had expected an easy victory, yet every strike she launched was anticipated and countered. She had to push harder, but every extra effort brought the risk of fatigue and miscalculation. Ethan, noticing the subtle shift in her movements, adjusted accordingly. He did not attack recklessly. He did not underestimate her power. Instead, he relied on balance, timing, and observation. Each motion was small but deliberate, designed to tire her slowly, while keeping himself safe. The arena seemed to hold its breath. No one spoke. Every spectator watched, mesmerized by the duel. The human and the champion circled each other, a dance of skill, courage, and intellect. Leora had fought countless opponents, but none had made her think, adapt, and respect them in this way. And Ethan, for his part, did not seek fame or glory. He sought to prove a simple truth. Humans, often underestimated, could face the galaxy's strongest and survive. His courage, strategy, and patience were his weapons, and they were just as effective as any blade or weapon of alien technology. As the first phase of the duel ended, both combatants paused, breathing steadily. Leora's eyes, once filled only with pride, now carried respect. She nodded slightly, acknowledging the human's skill. Ethan lowered his staff just a little, signaling that he had weathered the first wave of attacks and was ready for whatever came next. The announcer's voice returned, breaking the tense silence. "What we are witnessing is unprecedented. a human challenger facing the supreme champion of the cluster games, unarmed, yet unyielding. The crowd erupted into a mixture of applause, cheers, and stunned silence. Some spectators who had doubted, humans now whispered in admiration. Children pointed excitedly, inspired by the human's bravery. Veterans leaned forward, nodding in recognition of his intelligence and composure. Leora raised an eyebrow at Ethan. "You are clever, human. I underestimated you. But the next round will test both our limits. Are you ready?" Ethan smiled faintly, his eyes steady. "I am ready," he said, "and I am here to show that humans are never as weak as you think." The arena fell silent once more, the tension thick with anticipation. Both warrior and champion prepared for the next phase of the duel. Strength versus strategy, power versus intellect, tradition versus ingenuity. And in that silence, the crowd realized that they were about to witness a battle unlike any they had ever seen, one that would challenge their understanding of courage, skill, and the potential of humanity. The stage was set. The duel had only begun. The arena hummed with tension as the next phase of the duel began. Leora tightened her grip on her armor gauntlets, her eyes fixed on the human before her. Ethan's calm presence in the center of the arena made her uneasy in a way she had never experienced. This was not just a fight of strength, it was a battle of wit, timing, and observation. Every step, every movement mattered. Leora lunged forward with a powerful strike, faster than the human could have possibly expected. She intended to test him, to see if his calm was genuine or just luck. Ethan responded immediately, twisting and deflecting with his staff, using the tip to redirect her force. Instead of resisting, he guided her momentum past him, barely moving out of the way. The audience gasped. The human had not only survived her strike, he had turned it into an opportunity to study her movements. Leora's expression shifted from curiosity to determination. She realized that brute force alone would not win this duel. She had to adapt, to be unpredictable, to combine her strength with strategy. She feinted a strike from the left, then spun and launched a rapid series of attacks from above. Most warriors would falter under such speed, but Ethan anticipated her changes. He ducked, rolled, and used his staff to subtly deflect her energy without attacking back. The spectators whispered in awe. They had come to watch the champion demonstrate her power, yet now they were seeing something extraordinary, a human matching her in skill and awareness. Children leaned forward, eyes wide, and seasoned fighters whispered to each other. Some could hardly believe what they were witnessing. Humans were known for ingenuity, yes, but none had ever faced a champion of the cluster games like this. Leora paused briefly, noting the human's precision. "You are clever, human," she said, breathing steadily. "But cleverness alone will not win." Ethan responded, calm and steady. "It is not just cleverness. Observation and patience can be stronger than raw power." Leora tilted her head, intrigued. She had faced clever opponents before, but none with the combination of calm focus and intuition that Ethan displayed. His movements were simple, yet effective, never reckless, never unnecessary. She realized she had underestimated him, and that mistake could cost her. Determined to regain the advantage, Leora shifted her stance. She moved with a speed and fluidity that few could match, striking in patterns designed to overwhelm. She launched a series of spinning attacks, strikes aimed to force Ethan into a corner. But the human moved with incredible timing, stepping lightly, twisting his body, and using his staff to guide each attack past him. With every dodge, he learned more about her rhythm and approach. The crowd was spellbound. For years, they had cheered for Leora's dominance, her unmatched victories. Now they were witnessing something unprecedented. A human who could not only withstand the champion's attacks but also study and adapt to them in real time. Alien spectators exchanged stunned glances. This was more than a duel. It was a lesson in strategy, patience, and intelligence. Leora's strikes grew more complex, combining power and technique in ways that would overwhelm most opponents. Yet Ethan continued to move with precision. He didn't fight with anger or brute force. Instead, he relied on anticipation, observation, and timing. Each action had purpose, each movement was calculated. The human's strategy was simple but brilliant: tire the opponent while conserving his own energy. Midway through the duel, Leora executed her deadliest attack, a spinning downward strike aimed to end the battle instantly. The arena seemed to hold its breath. Spectators watched as she gathered all her strength into one powerful move. Most warriors would have crumbled under its force. Ethan did not panic. With a swift step to the side, he used the tip of his staff to redirect the strike's momentum, sending Leora's energy past him. She stumbled slightly, surprised by the human's unexpected move. For a brief moment, the arena fell completely, silent. Even the air seemed tense with anticipation. Leora struggled to regain her balance, realizing that the human's skill was more than just defense. He was learning from every strike, adapting instantly. The crowd erupted into whispers, some in admiration, some in disbelief. The champion had been challenged in a way no one had ever imagined. Humans, often seen as weaker and smaller, had now proven that they could outthink, outmaneuver, and even outlast the galaxy's strongest warriors. Ethan stood calmly, staff ready, his breathing steady. He knew that the next moves would be critical. He did not attack aggressively. Instead, he focused on observation, waiting for an opening. Leora, now fully aware of his skill, launched a series of attacks with both caution and ferocity. Her strikes were precise, calculated, and designed to push him beyond his limits. Ethan moved with perfect timing. He dodged, parried, and deflected, slowly learning the pattern of her attacks. His body reacted naturally, yet every movement was deliberate, a combination of instinct and planning. He realized that brute force was not enough. Strategy was the key. The arena spectators leaned forward, unable to look away. They had seen champions fall before, but none had faced such a clever and composed opponent. Every strike from Leora was met with a calculated response from Ethan. The dance between them grew more intricate, the rhythm of attack and defense mesmerizing. Leora's eyes glinted with a mix of admiration and challenge. "You surprise me, human," she said. "Few can withstand my attacks, and even fewer can counter them so effectively. But now, we see if your courage matches your skill." Ethan nodded slightly, acknowledging her words. "Strength is important, but courage and thought matter more. I do not fear your power, I respect it." The words carried across the arena, spreading through the crowd like wildfire. Humans, often underestimated, were beginning to earn a reputation among the spectators, not because of their physical strength, but because of their courage, intelligence, and ability to adapt. Leora decided it was time to test him further. She leapt high into the air, aiming to strike from above, an attack that would require perfect timing to avoid. Ethan's eyes tracked her movement carefully. He measured her, speed her angle and her approach. Then, with precise timing, he rolled forward, using his staff to deflect the strike just enough to maintain distance and safety. The crowd gasped again. The human had not only avoided a potentially fatal attack, but he had also used it to study, her movements learning more with each encounter. Leora landed lightly, noting his cleverness. She realized that this duel was no longer about who was stronger. It was about who could outthink and outlast the other. Minutes passed, yet neither warrior gave ground. Leora's strikes were relentless, yet Ethan remained calm. He learned from each attack, predicting her moves, adjusting his positioning, and preparing for the next phase. The battle had become a test of endurance, intelligence, and adaptability. The spectators were mesmerized. Children pointed, whispering to each other about the courage and skill of the human. Veterans nodded, impressed by his ability to withstand the champion's assault. Aliens who had once scoffed at him now watched with admiration and respect. Leora's breathing grew slightly heavier. She realized that the human had turned her own strength against her, not through attack, but through observation, adaptation, and strategy. She had expected an easy victory. Yet this human forced her to think, adjust, and respect him as an equal. Ethan, for his part, felt a quiet satisfaction. He was not seeking glory or fame. He only wanted to show that humans, often underestimated, could face even the strongest warriors with courage, intelligence, and patience. Each movement, each dodge, each subtle counter was part of a larger plan, a demonstration of human adaptability and perseverance. Finally, Leora paused, standing opposite him. Sweat glistened on her forehead, and her chest heaved slightly from exertion. Yet her eyes held respect. "You are extraordinary, human," she said, her voice steady. "Few could endure even a fraction of my attacks. But you have proven yourself beyond expectation." Ethan lowered his staff slightly, nodding in acknowledgement. "I only stand because I respect my opponent," he said. "Strength is important, but respect and thought guide true victory." The announcer's voice rang through the arena, trembling with excitement. "What we are witnessing is historic. A human not only survives, but thrives against the supreme champion of the Cluster Games. Never has anyone dared to challenge Leora in such a manner." The crowd erupted in cheers, applause, and astonished whispers. The duel had entered a new chapter, one that would be remembered across worlds. Leora, breathing steadily, looked at Ethan with newfound respect. She realized that the human was not just a fighter. He was a symbol of courage, intellect, and the potential of humanity. As the first true turning point of the duel ended, both combatants paused. Their eyes met, acknowledging the challenge, the effort, and the extraordinary skill displayed by the other. The arena was silent for a moment, the air thick with anticipation. The spectators knew that the next phase would determine not just the outcome of the duel, but the legacy of this unprecedented encounter. And in that silence, a single truth became clear to all who watched: underestimate a human at your own peril. The arena hummed with energy as the duel entered its next phase. The first round had ended with no clear victor, yet both combatants had proven their skill and courage. Leora, the champion, adjusted her stance, her eyes narrowing as she studied the human before her. Ethan stood calmly, staff in hand, breathing steadily and observing her every movement. The tension was palpable, and the crowd leaned forward, eager to see what would happen next. Leora had fought many opponents in her career, but few had made her think as intensely as this human. His movements were precise, intelligent, and completely unexpected. Every attack she made was met with anticipation. Every feint she used was countered with skill. She realized that brute force alone would not secure victory. She needed strategy, patience, and adaptability, the very qualities that Ethan displayed naturally. The announcer's voice echoed across the arena. "Prepare yourselves, spectators. The human challenger continues his extraordinary duel with Leora, the supreme champion of the Cluster Games. This is a battle of skill, courage, and intellect." The crowd erupted with cheers and applause. Aliens of all shapes and sizes whispered excitedly. Some had doubted the human at first, but now they watched in awe as he matched the champion's every move. Children pointed and whispered, inspired by his courage. Even seasoned warriors in the stands could not hide their respect. Leora flexed her fingers and launched the first strike of the round. It was a rapid downward slash aimed to test Ethan's reflexes. The human shifted his weight lightly, letting her momentum carry past him, and then guided her strike away with a subtle movement of his staff. The precision and control impressed even Leora. He was not merely dodging. He was learning, analyzing, and adapting. The crowd gasped. They had seen champions defeated, but rarely had anyone withstood Leora's attack so effortlessly. Aliens whispered to one another, their disbelief growing. Some even nodded in admiration. The human's calm composure and strategic thinking challenged everything they thought they knew about physical strength and combat. Ethan stepped forward, placing himself in a position to anticipate Leora's next attack. He did not strike aggressively. Instead, he focused on reading her movements, understanding her rhythm, and conserving energy for the critical moment. His strategy was clear: survive, learn, and exploit openings without rushing or making mistakes. Leora changed tactics, launching a spinning kick followed by a sudden leap aimed at striking from above. Many opponents would have been overwhelmed, yet Ethan adjusted quickly. He ducked, rolled, and used the arena's structure to redirect her momentum. Each movement was deliberate, precise and calculated. With every strike avoided, he learned more about her style, preparing for the moment when he could finally act. The spectators held their breath. The arena had become a stage not just for strength, but for intelligence and courage. Every strike and dodge carried weight. Every move was scrutinized. Leora had never faced an opponent like this, a human who could challenge her physically, mentally, and strategically all at once. Leora's eyes glinted with respect and determination. "You are clever, human," she said, "but skill alone will not win. You will have to match my strength as well." Ethan's gaze remained steady. Strength is not everything. Thought, observation, and courage can match even the strongest. Force. Her next attack was a blur. Leora lunged with a combination of punches and strikes designed to overwhelm. Ethan's body moved instinctively. He sidestepped, ducked, and used the staff to guide each attack past him. His movements were effortless yet precise, a combination of agility and intelligence. The crowd could hardly believe what they were seeing. Children whispered excitedly, while adults nodded in recognition of the human's extraordinary skill. Aliens who had doubted him now watched with growing respect. The champion, undefeated for years, was being tested in ways no one had imagined. Leora realized that she had underestimated him initially. This human was not relying on brute strength or reckless aggression. He was studying her, analyzing her attacks, and adapting instantly. She felt a thrill, a challenge she had not experienced before. This duel would require her to be more thoughtful, more precise, and more patient than ever before. Ethan sensed the shift in her strategy. He noticed subtle changes in her posture and movement. He adjusted accordingly, staying just out of reach, while observing for the smallest opening. His focus was unbroken, his mind calm and clear. The human's ability to remain composed under pressure impressed not only the spectators, but also Leora herself. The duel intensified. Leora combined speed and power in ways that would have overwhelmed most opponents. But Ethan used every skill he had learned, every instinct honed over years of training. He dodged, blocked, and redirected, never panicking, never overextending. Every strike he avoided taught him more about her patterns, her timing, and her limits. Minutes passed, yet neither warrior faltered. Leora's breathing became heavier and sweat glistened on her forehead, but her determination remained. Ethan's movements were calm, precise, and tireless. The duel had become a test of endurance, skill, and willpower. The crowd was entranced, witnessing a battle that would be remembered for generations. At one point, Leora attempted a daring attack, a high-speed charge designed to knock Ethan off balance. The human anticipated the strike, leaping aside and using the arena's surface to shift momentum. He barely avoided a potentially devastating blow, and the audience gasped. For the first time, some spectators began to believe that the human might actually succeed. Leora landed gracefully, her expression one of respect. "You endure well, human," she said. "Few can survive even one of my attacks, let alone all of them. But this duel is not over." Ethan nodded, his staff ready. "I will continue, not to defeat you, but to prove that humans can rise to any challenge." The announcer's voice boomed, filled with excitement. "The duel continues. The human challenger is not only surviving but matching the supreme champion's every move. This is a display of courage, intelligence, and strategy unlike any other." Spectators erupted in cheers. The energy in the arena surged. Aliens whispered excitedly, marveling at the human's skill. Children pointed, inspired by his bravery. Veterans nodded, impressed by his intelligence and calm under pressure. The human had become a symbol, showing that courage and thought could rival raw power. Leora, sensing that the human was growing stronger with each moment, decided to change her approach. She moved with sudden speed, striking from angles that had never been used before. Her attacks combined power, precision, and unpredictability. She wanted to see if Ethan could adapt to new challenges, if he could respond under pressure. Ethan's eyes widened slightly at the speed of her movements, but he did not panic. He had anticipated that the champion would change tactics. With quick reflexes, he adjusted his movements, guiding her strikes with his staff, avoiding direct impact, and observing her patterns carefully. Every motion was calculated, every response deliberate. The crowd watched in stunned silence. This duel had evolved into a battle of wits and reflexes, strategy and instinct. Leora, the undefeated champion, had met her match, not in strength, but in intelligence and adaptability. The human's ability to remain calm under pressure, to study and respond, had shifted the perception of every spectator. Minutes passed. Sweat glistened on both fighters, yet neither faltered. Leora's respect for the human grew. She realized that defeating him would require not just power, but patience, strategy, and an understanding of human ingenuity. Ethan, for his part, felt a quiet satisfaction. He had endured the mightiest attacks of the champion, adapted to her strategy, and held his ground. Finally, Leora paused, standing opposite him. Her breathing was steady and her expression held admiration. "You have proven yourself human," she said. "Few could withstand even a fraction of my attacks. But you have earned my respect." Ethan lowered his staff slightly, nodding in acknowledgement. "I only stand because I respect my opponent," he replied. "Strength is important, but respect and thought guide true victory." The announcer's voice rang out, trembling with excitement. "What we are witnessing is historic. A human challenger has not only survived, but has matched the supreme champion of the cluster games. This duel will be remembered across the galaxy." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Aliens whispered in admiration, inspired by the human's courage and intelligence. Children pointed excitedly and veterans nodded in recognition. The duel had become a symbol, not just of combat skill, but of human ingenuity, resilience, and determination. Leora raised her arm slightly, acknowledging the human skill. "You have changed the way I see strength and courage," she said softly. "This duel has shown me that victory is not just about power, but also about heart, mind, and respect." Ethan smiled faintly, his eyes steady. "And you have shown me that even the strongest opponent can teach lessons in humility and determination." The arena fell silent for a moment, the spectators holding their collective breath. Both combatants had endured, adapted, and respected each other. The duel had evolved into something extraordinary, a meeting of worlds, a clash of strength and intelligence, and a testament to the potential of humanity. As the fourth part of the duel concluded, the crowd realized that the arena was silent, the air thick with tension. Every eye, every camera, every listener was fixed on the human standing before the alien champion. His uniform was simple, almost plain compared to the elaborate armor of the others in the arena, yet there was a calm strength in his posture that drew attention. The human did not rush, did not flinch, and did not speak. He simply waited. The alien champion, still catching her breath from the previous battle, stared at him with a mixture of disbelief and caution. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, tried to read him but found nothing but unwavering determination. The crowd, which had erupted in cheers only moments before, now held its breath. The tension was palpable. "Who? Is this human?" one of the arena announcers whispered, their voice trembling with both fear and awe. The human's gaze did not move. He simply focused on the champion, his hands relaxed at his sides. He had been trained for situations like this, not for glory, but for survival, for understanding, and for moments that demanded calm precision. He knew that rushing or showing aggression could escalate a situation beyond control. He had learned that patience and observation often won battles before they began. The champion, sensing a change in the energy around her, shifted slightly. She raised her weapon, ready, yet hesitant. She had defeated many opponents before, but this human was different. There was no fear in him. There was no arrogance either. Just a quiet, steady presence that unnerved even the most experienced warriors. From the stands, spectators murmured among themselves. "He doesn't even carry a weapon," one alien commented. "How can he face her without even holding anything?" Another replied, "That is exactly why he can. He is not playing by the rules of fear or force." The human took a single step. Forward. It was deliberate, measured. He did not rush. He did not stumble. Each movement conveyed confidence, and yet it was not overbearing. The arena seemed to shrink around him, as if all attention had been drawn into this one calm figure. The champion tightened her grip on her weapon. She had faced warriors of many species, each more dangerous than the last. Yet here stood a human, alone, without obvious strength or advanced technology, standing undaunted in the center of the arena. The crowd was silent. The only sound was the low hum of the arena's energy field, buzzing like an invisible drumbeat in the air. Then, the human spoke softly, but clearly enough for all in the arena to hear. "I do not seek to fight you," he said. "I am here to show that strength is more than weapons, more than force. True strength lies in the choice to protect, to endure, and to act with honor." The champion froze. She had heard many words, from opponents many taunts and threats, but none like this. This was not challenge nor plea. It was not defiance nor submission. It was calm, unwavering, and it carried weight. The human did not seek to belittle or provoke. He simply stated a truth he had lived by, one that few had understood until now. A murmur ran through the crowd. The aliens, accustomed to displays of raw aggression, were confused. They had expected a fight, an explosive confrontation, yet here was a human standing calmly, speaking of values rather than violence. The champion lowered her weapon slightly, uncertain. Her previous victories had been won by force. She had never encountered someone who did not respond to fear or intimidation. The human's presence challenged everything she knew. "You talk of honor," she said, her voice firm but slightly unsteady. "Yet this is an arena. Here the strong win. Here the weak lose." The human nodded. "Strength is more than defeating others. It is about standing for what is right, even when the odds are against you, even when everyone expects failure. That is the strength I bring." For a moment the arena seemed frozen in time. The champion's eyes narrowed, studying him. She felt a strange respect for this human, who faced her without fear, without anger, without a weapon. He had done what few had. He had captured the attention of the entire arena without a single blow. Slowly, the champion lowered her weapon completely. The crowd gasped. Many expected her to strike, to assert dominance, but she did not. She did something unexpected. She bowed slightly, acknowledging his courage. The human nodded in return. His gesture was small, but it carried sincerity. The quiet exchange between them sent ripples through the arena. Spectators whispered, shocked by the display of mutual respect rather than battle. "You may leave the arena," the champion finally said, her voice steady now. "No human has ever faced me this way. No one has shown this kind of strength, without using force." The human nodded. "Thank you. May we all remember that true strength comes from courage and choice, not only power and weapons." As he turned to leave, the crowd erupted, not in fear, not in anger, but in awe. They cheered for the human who had dared to stand calmly, who had shown that courage and honor could change the expectations of an entire arena. Aliens and humans alike recognized the significance of the moment. A single human had reminded everyone that valor and wisdom were sometimes more powerful than force alone. In the corridors outside the arena, other champions watched from a distance. They whispered among themselves, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The human's calm demeanor, his words and his actions had left a lasting impression. Many had believed humans were weak, unpredictable, or unskilled in the ways of intergalactic combat. Yet here was proof to the contrary. The champion, now alone in her chamber, reflected on the encounter. She felt a shift within herself. For the first time, she questioned what it truly meant to be strong. Was it the ability to overpower? Or was it the ability to inspire, to protect, and to act with integrity, even when the odds seemed insurmountable? Far beyond the arena, leaders of various species received news of the event. Reports emphasized that a human had stood in the center of a prestigious combat arena and faced a champion without weapon or armor, and had not only survived, but commanded respect. Many debated, many doubted, yet none could ignore the evidence. The story spread quickly, a lesson in courage and dignity traveling faster than any fleet. The human, meanwhile, continued his journey quietly. He did not seek fame, nor recognition. He moved forward with the same calm determination, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. His actions had already altered perceptions, had already sown the seeds of understanding among species that had long viewed each other with suspicion and competition. Back in the arena, the champion practiced her skills, but her thoughts returned to the human. She trained harder, not just to be stronger, but to understand the meaning of true courage. The lesson he had shown her, the power of calm strength, of choosing honor over aggression, would shape her future decisions. She realized that victory was not always about defeating an opponent, but about learning and growing from the encounter. Days passed, and the human story reached even the most remote corners of the galaxy. Children, soldiers, scholars, and warriors alike spoke of him. They did not speak of a man who had won a fight. They spoke of a man who had changed the rules of engagement simply by standing tall, speaking truth, and showing respect. His legacy began quietly, not with trophies or titles, but with inspiration. His courage influenced strategies, teaching leaders that understanding and restraint could achieve more than aggression alone. And though he continued forward without fanfare, his presence continued to ripple across the galaxy, changing minds, altering expectations, and reminding everyone that humanity had a strength all its own. In the heart of the arena, the champion watched from her training room as messages from her peers arrived. Many admitted they had misjudged humans. Many wanted to learn from the lessons that had been demonstrated, and a few admitted that they had been humbled. For the champion, this was the greatest victory of all, not over an opponent, but over old assumptions, old fears, and old ways of thinking. The human never looked back. His journey continued, and with every step, he carried the quiet confidence that had silenced an entire arena. The universe, vast and uncertain, had seen his strength. And though he had not sought glory, he had earned something far greater: the respect of countless beings and the undeniable proof that humanity could rise above expectations. The arena had fallen quiet, but the echoes of what had transpired would never fade. Stories would be told, lessons would be learned, and generations would remember that the human who had stepped forward had done something no weapon or armor could achieve. He had shown that courage, calm, and honor could conquer far more than force alone ever could. And so the human walked forward, leaving the arena behind, carrying with him a quiet truth: that the measure of strength was not in power, nor in victory over others, but in the choices one made, the courage one showed, and the integrity one upheld no matter the odds.